Hey everyone, how you doing today? I'm Kirsty, and these are the books that I think may prove to be a 5-star read. There's a few others dotted around my shelves that I would love to say would be a 5-star prediction, but I don't think will be. So I've just picked out a few that I think are like the most likely contenders. I have 10 books in total for this list. A couple of these are rereads, so maybe I'm slightly cheating by including them because I may have I think both of them previously got 5 stars, but I'll talk more about those when I get to them. But I've got 3 main categories. I've got a couple of romance. No, I don't. I have a single romance, a single sci-fi, and the rest are all fantasies. And I'm going to start with the romance, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care. From everything I've heard about this book, I think I'm going to absolutely love it. It sounds amazing, the characters sound great, it looks fantastic. I really love that cover. And yeah, I just have really super high hopes for this. Like people, childhood acquaintances who didn't really like each other, now falling in love. Sounds good to me. Then is our one and only sci-fi, and that is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I have read the first couple of chapters, and I've just found a bookmark that's been missing for about 4 months that I've been looking for. But I have started the first couple of chapters, and from what I've seen alone, I have already giggled and laughed and smiled, and I have already fallen in love with Neil Shusterman's writing style in this, so I definitely think this will be a 5-star. But we shall see. But from what I've seen so far, I think I am really going to enjoy it. And then the rest of these are all fantasies. So I'm going to start with my rereads because I have a little bit of an explanation for each of these. So the first one is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. You guys know 2021, this was my second favourite book of the year. It was my YA fantasy of the year. I talk about this book a lot on this channel, but it has now been nearly 2 years since I read it. And I want to go back and reread it, see if it's still a 5-star, which I have no doubt it will be. But I also this time want to go back through, annotate it, highlight it, and just go crazy on it. And just work out if it is still right up there with my all-time favourites. Especially as at the moment I seem to be drifting more towards adult fantasy. So it'll be interesting to see if this hits as hard as it did the first time. The other reread, and the only other reread, is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. Another one you've probably heard me mention. I thought it was really clever with how it dealt with language and sisterhood, and I wasn't so keen on the suffragette storyline that wove within this, but then again I'm not really that big on books that deal with feminism, and which is stupid, I should be, but this one did it really, really well. So now that I've read a few more books around the topic and I've got a little bit more understanding, and I'm also starting to want to read dark academia, and this, with the use of language and the study of language and rhymes and stuff in this, I feel like it kind of starts to step into it almost. So I thought this would be a really nice one to bridge between fantasy and dark academia, as well as being Halloweeny, witchy, and all of that good stuff, and historical. So it just weaves together loads of things, and I want to see if I'm still as in love with it now as I was on the first read. The rest of these are all first time reads for me. Some of these complete the series, some of them are new books to me, but I'm going to start with Queen of Vaults by Amanda Foody. This is book 3 in the Shadow Game trilogy. Book 1 and 2 have both been fantastic so far, and I know I've been holding off reading this because I am so scared. And I know I'm going to cry, I know it's going to break me, and I just don't want this series to end, but I am going to put my big girl pants on this year and get to it. It is on my... is it on my to read list? I don't know, but it's in my brain. It's definitely on my I have to read it this year list. And yeah, I love the system in this because magic and abilities are linked to your family blood. We're introduced to N in the first book, and she is N Salter, and the Salters are linked to dancing. So there are a ton of things, and it's so cool because everyone just has like their primary and then a secondary blood talent, and I just think it's a really awesome system, and it's not a difficult one to understand, which is brilliant. We then have Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, and I want to get to this because I've heard so many amazing things about it. I've seen fantastic reviews, and I know a lot of people love it, and just the fact that apparently it's just a bunch of characters that just kind of don't really give a crap and are quite sarcastic. And I've been told it has a really good found family like group in here, and that's kind of become a big thing for me. And it's adult fantasy, it's written by a man, so it's ticking all the boxes of the sorts of things that I want to try and read more of this year. It's a shame it's got dragons, but I seem to keep picking up books that have dragons, and I don't really like dragons and dragon mythology. Yeah, I keep picking them up. To be fair, that looks more like a wyvern than a dragon, but I'm not going to go into that debate right now. Next up we have one that I've already started to read, and that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I really love the writing in this so far. I've already got a couple of quotes written down that I've really enjoyed. I'm only 30 pages in, and it's one of those that I can tell when I finally sit down to properly read it, I'll probably do it in 1 or 2 sittings, because it did captivate me from the first page. And I just think it's such a beautiful edition of a book as well. And yeah. We then have another final book in a series, and that is the second book in These Hollow Vows, so These Twisted Bonds by Lexi Ryan. I read the first book, gave it 5 stars, really loved it. I thought it was the only time I've ever read a love triangle where I actually enjoyed reading the love triangle. Finally someone did a love triangle in a way that didn't come across as just being angsty and emo-y, but also the love triangle and the romance didn't completely overshadow the rest of the plot. And I really liked that, because in the first book her sister is taken, and so often you see in these things where it's like, oh, my sister, I'm going to go to this fantasy world to save my sister, but I'm going to get distracted by everything along the way and forget she exists almost, and it didn't happen. And then the first book had a really awesome twist at the end that had me gasping, so I can't wait to get into this one. Next up we have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This is one that I am scared to read because I think I'm going to love it, but for some reason I just have not gotten around to it yet. I've not really seen many people talking about this book, and I think that's one of the things that makes me a bit nervous. I know it's rated quite highly on Goodreads, but I've never actually heard anyone of my friends or anyone that I follow on BookTube actually talk about it, and I'm like, I really want to know a little bit more before. But I've decided I'm going to take the leap, jump in, get on and do it this year. And I'm pretty sure this is on my self-destruct book list. I'm sure it is. I will double check, but I'm sure this is on my self-destruct list for this year, because if I do not read it, it will have been on my shelf for 3 years. It needs to go. And then the final book for this list is another and the last of the final books in a series. And I am so scared to read this because the second book had me crying so much because something really emotional happened out of nowhere and blindsided me. And now I am scared of what's going to come next, and that is Girls of Fate and Fury by Natasha Nyan. I'm scared, guys. I'm scared. Not only are these very heavy themed books, they deal with sexual assault and trauma, and they're also LGBT. The main romance in this is 2 women. And I will admit, I still am not a fan of the romance. I don't like one of the main characters in this series, and for me, I became even less interested in her in the second book. But the main character, Lee, I would die for her. And yeah, it just ended on such an emotional gut punch that I now am so terrified to finish this book, because I might have to vlog this one because I have a funny feeling there's going to be a very intense reaction to it. So yeah, I think it's going to be a 5-star because it's going to annihilate me. So there we have it. Those are just 10 books that I think I'm going to give a 5-star to. I would love to come back in about a year's time, go through this video and see if I have actually read them and what I thought of them. But let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what rating you gave them. Please keep the comments spoiler free though, because obviously I've not read them and there might be other people that haven't. Not too long a video from me for once. I hope you're all good, I hope you're staying safe, and until next time.